25 years behind everybody else. I've seen websites that were created 20 years ago that don't seem to have been updated. They are the ones who are struggling the most to get leads, are still relying on that word of mouth, missing out on the huge opportunity, thinking about themselves and what they do rather than solving problems for their clients. So you can make one piece of content and it could be relevant for years. It's just not being educated enough.
Once you get going, it's not that hard.
It's the quickest way to waste money. They give you a positive review. A lot of people don't realise the power of Google My Business. People are more inclined to leave negative reviews. You want to have words on there that people are searching for. You've got to be solving someone's problem, not just posting.
Welcome to the Market Movers Podcast. Today we're exploring marketing strategies for law firms with Damian Reed, Head of Marketing at Quality Solicitors. Welcome, Damian.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Damian, thanks for coming on. To start, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about your background in marketing?
Certainly, yeah. So, as you've already said, I'm a Head of Marketing at Quality Solicitors. So essentially what I do at QS, because it's easiest to call them QS than say Quality Solicitors every time. What I do at QS, I look after the overall strategy for the QS brand. So we are client facing. We have a website that's very popular where people come and visit and get legal information, maybe looking for a solicitor. So I look after the campaigns and the branding and the strategy for QS. But I also head up a marketing team of 6 people who either assist or run the entire marketing for our member firms. And we have somewhere between 30 and 40 member firms within our network at the moment. And that's anything from graphic design right through to website optimization.
Okay, cool. So you do it all.
We do, yeah.
Okay, so why don't we start by talking about some of the issues that law firms in the UK face with actually generating leads?
That's a good question because I've only been within the legal industry for 3 years, and I've come from tech and the world of gaming as well. And when I came into the legal sector, I really didn't give it much thought. I was just like, it's just another industry, another sector, everything will be fine. And then I realised that the legal sector is about 20-25 years behind everybody else. So all the things, all the strategies and all the things that I would usually do, I was like, right, we have to go back to basics in a lot of ways. And when you say they're struggling for leads, well, there's so many different facets to it, because there are, you'd probably say even like in the sector, trailblazers who are big firms or firms that are just starting out, maybe have that modern mindset where they are adapting to modern marketing, but then there are a huge chunk of the sector that are behind brass tacked signs on doors, and they're like, no, we go by local recommendations only.
Fax machines,
the fax machines, yeah, busted on repeat in the background. still probably contemplating what's going to happen to the computers during Y2K or something like that. But I jest, but they are seriously behind, and in these last few years, I've seen websites, I'm not exaggerating, I've seen websites that were created 20 years ago that don't seem to have been updated.
Jeez. Or
I've been in conversations where someone's made that daring decision to go on social, and things that people were doing in 2008, 2009, 2010, there are still firms that are still making those decisions. So I predominantly work with small and medium-sized firms. Your high street firms is probably the best way to describe those. Predominantly, they are the ones who are struggling the most to get leads, because they are still relying on that word of mouth, being that local solicitor, whilst they are, for a lot of them, missing out on the huge opportunity from getting new clients, via web searches or Google My Business or social media. So it's a multifaceted problem of getting leads is probably my long answer to your very short question.
I think what's interesting as well is you said that they're still in that, the firms that you work with, which are the ones that are most at risk, are the high street brand. And obviously the UK high street is, the death of the UK high street. So they've got to adapt, I suppose. Yeah,
they do. We did our own study with people who came to our main website a couple of years ago, and we determined approximately 83% of new clients find a solicitor via online means, which is scary for a firm who's not getting themselves out there.
So let's talk about the ones that are behind the times. You've already mentioned old websites. That seems like a given, but what are some of the other big mistakes you see these law firms making when it comes to marketing?
The big mistakes are they don't make it personal. It's either stock imagery or there's the senior partner shaking hands with somebody, and that just seems to be across everything. And they are thinking about themselves and what they do rather than solving problems for their clients. So, things like creating guides, educational pieces, either through blog articles or downloadable guides, that sort of thing, then that really aren't doing. And don't get me started on video. There's nobody's doing video. No one's doing these short form videos where they're, solving a frequently asked question. There's something that they might get all the time, and they go, oh, if only you had an asset that we could share with them, or they could see themselves that would answer that question. No one's really doing that sort of thing, and it is actually. It might sound like I'm a bit frustrated by it, but I think it's actually a very exciting industry in a lot of ways, because everything that people were doing, like I say, 10, 15 years ago, maybe longer, it's only been adapted now with some firms. So the opportunity for firms to be able to adapt and make an impact is probably bigger in this sector than a lot of other industries that are up with the times now.
Is like for short form video and things of that nature, obviously things which I imagine you are very forthcoming in trying to get them to do. Are you seeing like pushback? Are the solicitors themselves just they don't want to do that, or it's just not something they think they'll be good at?
It is the case, because with fee earners, they really are going by the hour of how much things cost and how much money they could save, or how much how they're basically going by that hour and how much things basically cost. And they don't see the immediate impact that it might have. And we don't necessarily mean it doesn't necessarily have to be that immediate impact, but they're not seeing also the potential longevity of having content that doesn't necessarily have to go out of date. Because yes, okay, laws change and that sort of thing, but not frequently. So you can make one piece of content and it could be relevant for years. And I think the thing that I try to get across is that, there are a lot of people saying they don't have the time, especially with the smaller firms. It's like, well, I don't have the time to work on a website. I don't have the time to chase reviews. I don't have the time to be on social or anything like that. But with the access to AI most people have with AI these days, you can create one piece of content and then use ChatGPT or other platforms to be able to then go and create all the other things for you, essentially. So you could, a bit like what we're doing, I suppose, have a conversation being recorded. It takes 40 minutes, an hour, and then you have that video then transcribed. Then you've got the text format. You can ask ChatGPT to make social media content for you. You've got other platforms that can make short form videos automatically for you. It's a great opportunity now with all these different platforms to be able to do that for you, rather than having a whole team of people going, right, I'm gonna do all that stuff for you. You could do it with a few clicks. So the argument of not having enough time, it's just not being educated enough in those areas to be able to work efficiently.
Yeah, and those are the firms that need to be doing it too, right? The ones that don't have enough time, they're the ones that really need to put in that extra effort. I think part of the struggle is if you don't have like a background in marketing, it's really hard to get started on these things. I think most of these things, once you get going, it's not that hard. It's not difficult to create video content. It's just that getting over the hurdle of getting started. So I'm curious for these smaller firms that are in competitive areas, oftentimes one of the quickest strategies for getting new leads is local service ads, PPC, but that can really change when you're a smaller firm in a very competitive area where those prices are really high. So in those situations, what are some strategies those firms could do to focus on when PPC maybe is out of the budget? If
PPC is out of the budget, I think with any small firm, the first thing I would say, just regards to the PPC, is don't do it unless you really know what you're doing, because it's the quickest way to waste money. For me, one of the quickest wins that you can do is if you're satisfied that you provide your clients a good service, you make sure that they give you a positive review. My local barber has a QR code code where you pay, and they're like, did you have a great service? I go, yeah. You happy with your haircut? Yeah, I am. I go, yes. Scan that QR code and leave us a positive review. They're doing it, and locally, they are one of the highest ranked, on Google My Business, are one of the highest ranked barbers in the area. But yeah, firms, I think a lot of people don't realise the power of Google My Business. They go, oh yeah, I could do this, I could work on my website, I could do that. But actually, to rank on Google's quite difficult and very long. It takes a long time to do that, and you need deep pockets to pay for backlinks and so much and so forth. But to start ranking on Google My Business, you probably have those clients already. You probably have a bank of clients that you've worked with over the last 12 months, 18 months, where you have their data. You'll be able to reach out to them via email and say, is it possible that you could leave a review with us or how was your experience? And then if they reply saying it was a great experience, go, fantastic, could you leave us a positive review on Google My Business, and build those reviews up, because everybody these days looks online and does their research. Whether you're looking for a service, whether you're buying a product, everyone looks to find out if is there negative reviews, are there positive reviews, what do people think about it or them, and it's the easiest thing to be able to go and do and get yourself ranking higher up on Google My Business. I
just saw a study a couple of days ago that was talking about 4.9 being sort of the magic number for dominating local search, and that, I suppose that can seem unachievable especially if you're not actively pursuing reviews. So it sounds like local then is a place which is underutilized by firms in competitive spaces, and maybe the quickest ROI, rather than focusing on a long-term SEO strategy, looking at making sure you're in the map pack, making sure that individual solicitors from the firms have got knowledge panels, these sorts of things. So could you give us a granular strategy of, let's say, a non-connected law firm? They have no web presence. Where would you start?
Well, they have a website at least, yeah.
Okay, 20-year-old website, yeah.
A 20-year-old website. It's a difficult one, because if it was any other industry, I would say park that website, create a landing page that converts. But you can't do that in a legal industry. You need a website that meets SRA standards. And so to have things like transparency and pricing, to have contact details on there, and that's difficult.
Let's say they've got that then, and they've got
they're not 20 years old.
Yeah. They just want to do better, obviously, in terms of local.
Yeah, absolutely. So a great strategy would be to, like I said, to start looking at getting those positive reviews coming in, to ensure that you are consistent across all directories as well, to ensure that you have the details there, and if they're on Trustpilot, if they're on solicitor.info, if they're on Google My Business, that they are starting to bring in those positive reviews, because these sites will rank in areas for you automatically. So if you're looking for a solicitor in Doncaster, yes, law firm websites will appear, but also so will those review websites, and so you can help rank yourself up on those sites by having that review management process in place. It also helps with that resilience as well, because if you do get someone, and let's face it, more people are more inclined to leave negative reviews than are positive reviews. I've had a really bad experience, I'm going to leave that review, rather than my experience was alright, that it was expected. They're probably not going to leave that review. So you have to have that resilience there. You have to have those positive reviews that you've promoted, you've pushed people to leave. So if you do get those negative reviews, that you do, it doesn't affect the score too much. But also you need that plan in place as well, that if you do have that negative review, that you respond to it. Because that negative review could be a misunderstanding, or it could be a problem with your service. And if it's a problem with your service, then that's something that you do need to address. But you need to obviously have that, whether it's canned responses or however you want to put it, but you need to be able to respond in a professional way. And so people do read those negative reviews. And if you can have that reply on there saying, we're sorry that you've had this experience, we'd love to work with you and make that better for you, rather than, I don't know what this person's talking about, or right. They'll read that and they'll go, okay, well, that's a negative review. No one's perfect, but I can see that there's been a professional response, and that means a lot. So yes, Google My Business, absolutely needs to be there. And then you really need to look at probably the niche services as well. I hate the word niche, and I also hate when people pronounce it niche.
As an American here.
He's talking to you, Nick.
Yeah, I got that.
But that's probably the other way to look at it as well, is that you could be a jack of all trades or a master of none. A master of one even. You can have content on your site, you can promote being a family law specialist or someone who works with clinical negligence or something like that. You can specialize in a certain area to then rank in your local area for that. So someone might have that broad search and go solicitor in Doncaster, but it might also go, I want a will in Doncaster or something like that. So if you're a specialist in wills and probate, then you're more likely to be up the Google rankings versus just saying I'm a solicitor in Doncaster.
And that specialty, is that something you put in on your Google listing? Like, how do you, obviously on your website you're talking about that specialty, how do you focus on that on your Google listing?
So were you talking about meta tags and website descriptions and so forth, or
was for specifically how to show up in the Google Map Pack for, if you're talking about wills plus a certain city?
Yeah.
How do you accomplish that?
You'd need to optimize your profile. So you'd make sure that you have all the relevant keywords. And so anybody I hate using technical words. I've tried to train myself out of it the last few years. So you want to have words on there that people are searching for. And then you also want to make sure that your Google profile, your Google My Business profile is updated on a regular basis. And I'd recommend having someone come out and take a professional photo of your office if it's a nice building, or if it's not a nice building, maybe a photo of the inside of your office, photos of your team, just so something visually, ideally, is instantly recognizable as people are scrolling through. But then also put that relevant content on there as well. So there's a great thing about it. You can share articles on there too. So if you are specializing in wills, for instance, then you would have your keywords or your descriptions that people search for, and then you would also then have relevant articles or useful guides in certain different scenarios that people might find useful, and then it'll show you as a firm as a trusted voice or a thought leader, and more likely then someone's going to want to get in contact with you rather than just being just a number of photos.
How often should firms be updating their Google business profile then?
As much as they can. Don't be silly. Don't do it all every day, but if you've got content that's relevant, then it makes sense to share it. It's the more content you get out there, the better it's always going to be. But, I'm not talking about just putting content on there for the sake of it, because it has to be good quality content. And I think you would all agree that at the moment there is a lot of content going out there, and probably down to a lot of AI, a lot of content going out there that isn't very good at the moment. So if someone can be a voice or a specialist at a firm, then it's a great, have that advocate, that specialist within that firm who shares the content.
You mentioned reviews being really important. So I think professional service, people in this industry, they struggle to ask for reviews. So I'm curious if you have any strategies for how to ask, and then maybe when to ask. Is that something you do when you're completely done? Should you do it like during the service? What strategies do you have for getting reviews?
So you could have email automation. That could be one of the easiest ways to be able to do it if you are finding it difficult to be able to say how did I do, which is something that you should set up. And again, many firms that I speak with don't have any email automation set up in place.
Automated fax.
Pardon?
Automated fax.
Yeah. Pages.
Just page me a review. We'll add it.
But I mentioned that Barbara earlier, having the QR code on their desk. There are still people who physically go into firms, and so having a form that people can fill out or a QR code that someone can scan. It's amazing that QR codes were dead before the pandemic, but now they're alive again. And having those automated emails going out, they're different touch points that you can use to get reviews. So you're getting a review when someone's physically in the office, but also if someone's, again, even the firms that we were talking about have got Google Meets and Teams and that sort of thing, and can do things remotely. So sending out that email follow-up is always useful.
Okay, cool. So let's move on to leads specifically then, because mid-sized firms, let's say, that are, or high street style firms that are struggling with leads, they employ the services of or the ROI that they're hoping to get from implementing a marketing strategy. What is going to be, and if you could give us any real examples as well, that would be awesome. Real implementable strategies that they can do to start getting those leads quickly. Now, we speak to a lot of people in this space, and often, obviously, SEO is a long-term play, and you're going to get a faster ROI, let's say on PPC. But what would you do? What have you done that works to give that best, the best results possible?
So one of the quicker wins, and I'll go back to the email automation, is cross-selling, because you've already got that customer, you've already got that client, and if they've bought a new house, if you've got a conveyancing solicitor, I guarantee you, for many firms, small and medium, they're helping a client go through the purchase or selling of a house, but no one's thinking of going, should it will be updated here? And so that is instantly a quick win to be able to just tap into your current client base and get those leads there. What I would say, though, for any firm thinking of looking at a company or a specialist outsource, do your due diligence and don't just click on an ad that you see on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, because there are a lot of companies out there at the moment who say they can do all these grandiose things, that they can get all these amazing, this huge amount of leads, and they can't. it's a massive
they
scam.
Wouldn't lie, would
it's
they?
A con. They really can't. And to be quite frank, they may not have any experience whatsoever in the legal industry either. So it might be different trying to get a lead or a potential client to buy a T-shirt versus trying to get someone to go through a conveyancing process. Yeah, I'd always look at, if you are going out to outsource, and when you are spending money, then that's probably the best way to do it, unless you have somebody in-house who is a specialist. Then I would go with a firm or an agency that has a reputation within the legal sector.
Earlier you mentioned that SEO, it takes a long time to see the results. You need some big pockets to compete often in these areas.
Yeah.
So would you say that SEO is still an important focus for law firms?
It is, because there isn't that huge amount of competition. As I mentioned earlier, there are so many sites out there that are lackluster, and so the difficulty to be able to start ranking over the other sites is a lot easier than other industries and sectors. There are so many different ways in which someone who might search online for a solicitor, say for instance, I'll keep going back to the solicitor at Doncaster, because off the top of my head I can't think of another location, but there might be a lot of firms trying to compete for the solicitor in Doncaster search term, but there might not be so many that are trying to compete for a child arrangement, or try to get your money back after a bad holiday or something like that. So there's so many different types of words that you can start to rank for, and then there aren't that, especially with towns as well. Bigger cities are different, but with towns there aren't that many solicitors and websites that are trying to rank within that area. So it isn't a long-term big issue for this sector. You can very quickly be ranking for certain types of keywords, and you see these. You always see these SEO gurus and stuff like that. They go, I ranked a website in 24 hours at number one. I was like, okay, it's a very niche, probably keyword that you've gone for. But maybe 24 hours is not doable for a lot of these firms. But for things that they just basically just need to look at the inquiries that they're getting, look at the services the top services that they are getting clients for, and then think about all the different things that someone might search for with in terms of those services. And then start to create content on their website, make sure that their services pages on their website have those words in them.
Okay, and from your experience then, what are you seeing as being the sort of average breakdown of leads split between, let's say, SEO, organic SEO, paid ads, and like word of mouth, direct customer inquiries?
Well, with new clients, as I said earlier, we found roughly about 80% of new clients find a site, a firm online. So that will be through their own research. What we generally advise firms to do is, when it comes to PPC, only do PPC if you've got a specific service, campaign, or if that time of year that you want to promote something. So
Free Will Month.
Free Will Month, for instance. Yeah. You've been reading my content online. But that is a great time to be able to run a PPC campaign, and yes, you will during that month probably get more people or more clients in through that PPC campaign. But overall, I would say that the difference will be leaning more towards the long-term project of SEO website content that will bring in your leads.
So let's talk about some of the other elements of SEO. Obviously, we have the technical SEO side, but I think that's not as fun to talk about, so we'll ignore that one for a while.
Especially on a 20-year-old website. Actually, that could be really fun.
That would be quite important, and they should probably start there. But let's assume we've gotten that taken care of, because for these law firms, they're not complicated websites. They're usually a handful of service pages, a blog. There's not really that much to it. Mm-hmm. So if we have the main focuses of content and link building, let's start maybe with the link building. How important do you think is link building for ranking for law firms?
That is, it is obviously important if you are in a bigger city. If you are in somewhere where there is going to be a lot of competition. Now, we all know that that domain authority ideally needs to be scoring. But I've seen many solicitor websites that are ranking really well with very low domain authority. Just again going back to that the lack of competition within an area. So if you're in a rural area, if you're in a town, then link building potentially isn't too much of a big issue. However, if you are in a city, then yes, it is something you do need to invest in. It's critical to build that reputation on your website, because if Google doesn't think your site is any good or is an authority on a subject, then you're not going to get anywhere. It doesn't matter how much good the quality of your content is on your site, or how many keywords you're trying to rank for. If you don't have that authority, you're not going to be discoverable.
So it's like the competitive differentiator then, I suppose.
Yes.
In these smaller, less competitive areas, then they can focus on good content and some technical stuff, make sure their website is, not black and white, old 20-year-old website, and they can rank just fine. But the big cities, that's where we have to start using links. Okay. And what sort of link building? I assume you're working with larger firms as well in cities, in more competitive areas as well. What sort of link building do you find to be the most effective for law firms?
This would probably be the manual link building. So approaching reputable firms and services within the sector that are associated with a service that you provide, and approaching them and effectively paying to have a sponsored article or a link to your own site. I think it goes without saying, stay away from places like Fiverr. Stuff like that.
So would you just run a manual outreach campaign then?
Absolutely. Yeah. I would. That'd be the way I would do it. I would write. Yeah, okay. I would probably have a few emails that I would write, so I have some templates that I can work on. But then the opening part would probably be manually written by me, and then I would do obviously my research to find out who would be the best person to send it through to, or if it's a general inquiries email to send that through to, because you can automate it, but I think your hit rate will be a lot lower than if you were to do it manually and do it properly.
We also like digital PR for law firm link building. This maybe isn't great for the firms that already don't have time to create their own content. because it is quite time consuming. But we do find journalists love to hear from lawyers. They're always writing content where they need some sort of legal perspective.
Yeah.
So for lawyers, it's a really great chance to get a link on these massive publications, because they can be the expert. The journalist is using their credentials to cite whatever it is they're trying to prove. So that's a good one for this industry.
It is, and you can be that thought leader, that expert within the firm, and get your content out there. So we've talked, I think, a lot of the focus has been about the firm creating content, but also it's just as powerful, or maybe even more powerful, to have people within your firm creating content as well. With a firm, that you need to make sure that they know what they're doing, and that there's a certain branding and tone of voice that is consistent, hopefully, across the firm. But if someone can post personal content, whether that be on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever, then that could be extremely powerful. And then as people can reach out and say, can you jump on a podcast, or can you write an article for us, or can we cite you, or anything like that. But then there are, as many websites that you can go out and say, hey, I do this, and I see that you're writing an article or doing some research, and I'd love to be able to help. And that's again, is another powerful way in which to get that backlink.
And I think law firms as well, as like local law firms, like mid-sized, they're in quite a good position to do community-based stuff as well, which can attract links from local newspapers if they're sponsoring maybe a football match, like a youth football match, these sorts of things. But it obviously needs somebody to be proactively looking and going after those opportunities, doesn't it? Which, yeah,
absolutely, yeah. Again, maybe not so relevant within big cities, but smaller cities, towns, rural areas, brilliant. Working with football teams, working with local charities, parish councils, whatever, turn up at a school, at a school fete or whatever, could actually be quite powerful to be able to do that. And if you have somebody in your firm that is inclined to do that, it'd be great. You could do it online as well. People forget Facebook is a social media platform, and you can be social on. You don't have to just be taking photos of your dinner and checking into restaurants. You can actually, be social there too.
As we come towards the end of this, I'm intrigued with the social media side. Then I'm intrigued to know if you've got any specific examples of mid-sized law firms that are getting leads from social media. I'd love to know what sort of content performs well, short form, long form video, and if so, how are you getting the solicitors to do this content, and what does that look like?
So, I've worked with a few firms that are actually doing really well. One, the firm I've worked with last year has gone from pretty much no social media presence to over 2,000 followers on LinkedIn and thousands of impressions. And they're on other social media as well. As you know, it's different for different platforms. There are some very aggressive algorithms out there that will only work if you post certain types of content. But for something like LinkedIn, there is a lot of content out there that I would say is probably low quality, that is a photo of someone attending an event, or two lines of I'm doing this today or something like that, and treating it a little bit like Facebook. I've noticed one of the recent changes I've actually seen on LinkedIn is that it's starting to promote video a lot more. It's certainly on my app, on my Android app, it's about 3 or 4 posts down. There's now getting a line of horizontal videos appearing, and so creating short form video would be potentially quite powerful. Maybe you might not see the immediate impact now, but if you're doing it before everybody else, then you're gonna reap the rewards later down the line. Infographics are quite good, and carousels are good on LinkedIn as well. Again, though, you've got to be solving someone's problem, not just posting information or celebrate yourself. If you're going to do that, though, have a dog in your photo or a baby like that, because everybody engages with that sort of content. And then we're also finding as well on meta platforms that short form video is doing quite well too. Posts on company pages seem to have died off in recent years. Not many people are engaging with the standard posts on a company page, and I suppose why would they, unless they're actually actively following you and want to know more about you. But having a short form video on your feed, on your stories, that hits way better than just your standard static image or text post.
Okay, Damian, I think that is the perfect place to wrap up. This has been a really great talk, so thank you for coming on.
No problem.
For people who want to connect with you, where can we send them?
Best place would be to connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search Damian Reid. That's it. I remember this face.
Yeah, it's a feed full of him with his dog, so you can go to.
I have no dog. I have a cat.
I'm a cat man as well.
Who isn't actually featured. I'll take a photo tomorrow with a cat.
Okay, I'll like it when I see it in my feed then. Okay. Okay. Well, thanks, Damian. It's been awesome.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Nick.